Hi guys, we're live. Thanks for joining me once again. And as always, for Cuppa with Michelle, make sure you've got your cup of coffee, cup of tea, or even wine. You know what? If you're watching me at night, that's okay. Have a vino. And today is going to be a really interesting topic. I've got an amazing doctor, scientist, researcher here with us because one of the things that we all forget is how important water is and how important it is to actually test anything and everything that we put into our body and that we put our body in contact to. So, we've had discussions on food, on understanding what's in your food, toxins in perfumes, and all those things, because we know that there's so many toxins around us that can alter our metabolism, that can affect our health and our immune system. But very few have actually checked what's in their water. So just double checking, as we always do, that we are heard properly. And wherever you're joining us from, because I can see people jumping in now, please do introduce yourselves and let us know where you're jumping in from. Hey, Divina, how are you? Let me know where you're jumping in from. I will just make sure that we've got a volume, so it might, okay, that's good over there. All right, so when I invited you here, there were a few questions that I've typed up that I said we were gonna cover, and we will cover all of them. If you have anything that you can think of right now, start typing them up, because I promise you there will be a lot of questions that are being asked. I wanna make sure that we have enough time to get to your question. Hey, Charlene, how are you? Awesome. Charlene from Singapore. Okay, so one of the things that I said earlier is it's very interesting that we have someone here that can help us with water. We have shared information about how we do our own testing in our homes. I help my clients and my patients understand that it's important to test their water, find out what's acid, what's alkaline, what, if they've got chlorine in their water, what the ORP levels are. But we need to understand the basis of this, the reason for this, and if there really is such a thing that can prove that water or one type of water is better than the others. I've got a lot of friends with scientific backgrounds. I've got a lot of medical doctor classmates who have been skeptical. And this is not about me changing your mind. This is just about me giving you something to think about, because I have someone here who's done the research, who's done the scientific study. So Dr. Horst Filtzer, I've just had the opportunity to personally meet him last week, and I'm really, really honored to have him here with me. And he's an amazing doctor, scientist, and researcher. He's had more than 30 years experience as a general surgeon and a vascular surgeon. He's done research on our water because he is also the medical advisor of the Enagic company of the medical grade ionizers. And Dr. Horst Filtzer just came up with a study recently that I'll have him discuss with you. But let me just read a little bit about Dr. Filtzer, which just amazed me. And Dr. Filtzer is the director of the Wound Care Center at the Western Arizona Regional Medical Center in Bullhead City, Arizona. He is a Harvard graduate. He has had, as I said, 35 years of active surgical practice in general and vascular surgery. He is also, and I'm so amazed by this, and thank you for your service, received 3 Bronze Stars for Valour in the Army. So we're not talking about just any guy here. We're talking about an amazing person who actually have it in his DNA to help others. So we were talking about purpose, and he was saying, the only thing that I hope we could do is actually be able to help people get healthier and better everywhere. And that's what we're hoping to do. Change one person's perspective, add one more knowledge in each person's head as we go through this Cuppas and as you share this video. So I would like to encourage everyone to please do a watch TV. I forgot if that's the right word. Sorry, there's so many platforms, so many different names, but do a watch program on your Facebook. We are also live on YouTube, so do share YouTube as well. And without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Horst Filtzer, and please welcome him with me. Hi, Horst. How are you?
I am very well, Michelle. Thank you.
Good evening to you and good morning to me.
Well, I am having my evening coffee, and you're having your morning coffee, so there you are.
That's right. Horst, I loved reading all these things that you've been able to accomplish in your lifetime. And as I said, really honored to know you, really honored that, it wasn't just helping others in your clinic, in your practice, in your hospital. It was also helping people on the field. So you've always had it in your DNA to help others and help people have better health, better life. And when did this start? I mean, what got you into the field of health or helping others?
Well, it's very interesting. I'm an immigrant to the United States. I was born in Poland, and when I was a teenager, we wound up in Fargo, North Dakota, as recent immigrants, and that was in 1956. And I was then in high school. I got a job in a hospital, what was called a ward clerk. I'd fill out forms and I'd run around and do stuff like that. It was a Catholic hospital run by the nuns. And as I was becoming more proficient in English and so on and so forth, at one time I had an encounter with a pathologist. The pathologist was a German immigrant also, and he introduced me somewhat forcibly. I had to help him do an autopsy.
Oh.
And that was a very rude awakening for a 16-year-old. But once I got into the situation, and once I saw what this brilliant man could show about a deceased person, what he saw with his eyes and subsequent with his microscope, that would establish a cause of death, that would put everything together for the family and so on and so forth. It fascinated me. And for about a year, I did that multiple times. And I was hooked on becoming a pathologist. As it turned out, subsequent to that, I went to college and I went to medical school. But in medical school, I was much more stimulated by surgery. I liked the fact that the surgeon uses a tool, but that tool produces healing and wellness. And it's quick, and it really does work most of the time. I mean, there are complications and there are issues. And you do talk to your patients, and you get the opportunity to make them well, and then they're gone and they get on with their lives. And I like that about surgery, and that's the rest is history. I became a surgeon.
That's right. In your practice, Horst, have you ever felt like you've always wanted to do more? Did you feel like, because you were saying, it's good because they walk out of your surgery, but I've spoken to other doctors and some of them have said, the thing with being a doctor or being a practitioner is that there is a revolving door. If they don't know how to take care of themselves, these patients keep coming back and coming back for whatever their issues are. And in a certain extent, surgery can be that way as well with some illnesses. Am I correct?
Oh, you're absolutely correct. We have chronic illnesses that the surgeon addresses. One of the most important ones is inflammatory bowel disease like Crohn's and UC. I mean, these people are yours forever because they tend to have recurrent complications and recurrent issues. And so in that regard, the scalpel does one thing, but wouldn't it be better if a medication would work? Of course. And so we do feel frustrated at times. On the other hand, you also have an obligation to tell people that there is a limit to what they can expect from me or from the disease. And the disease, or whatever it is is the determinant of success. If you come into the hospital with a stage 4 cancer, things are not going to look good for you no matter what. So it's important to be honest. It's important to show your patient that you care, but also what the limitations are of your skills and of our knowledge vis-a-vis their survival and their happiness. So that's honesty, I think, is a profoundly important thing to deal with patients.
That's right. What I love about what you just said is you actually mentioned Crohn's. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. I was diagnosed in 2002. And I did go a different route. I didn't take the route of medication, but there was a lot of changes that had to take place. And I think what the biggest learning and the biggest aha moment for me in that period was that the body is smart. The body rebuilds itself. Given the tools it needs, it can actually help you change, the trajectory of where your health goes. And we have found an amazing tool through Enagic, which now helps us in rebuilding, the body. One of the things that we always forget as human beings, we eat, we exercise, we do our breathing and running outdoors, but people forget the value of water. People forget that we are more water than anything else.
Right.
And I love having learned that there was actually a way to check if water was good or not. But the way I check my water is very different from the way you decided to actually test the water. I mean, typical doctor, researcher, scientist, you had to put it through more rigorous testing. Now, I'm really excited to find out the testing that you put the Enagic water into. But before I ask that question of what the process was, I'd like to know what you were thinking. Why did you think that there was a need to actually do more testing on the water? I mean, a lot of when I first discovered the water, I was watching videos of how they did pH testing, chlorine testing, ORT testing. So these were the only ways to test the water that I knew. The other way was to actually send our tap water before and after the filter was set up to a group, an office here that actually tested water to see how dirty the water was, what the constituents of the water was, and how there was a change after we filtered. But you went further. So if I can just find out first, course, what was the reason for the need in your mind to do that further study? Why did you think we needed to do that?
Well, for the simple reason that we made a lot of claims, distributors and Enagic USA, in our case, made certain claims, and the most important of them being the microclustering, the antioxidant, and pH balance, and so on and so forth, and anti-inflammatory issues. And it was good for virtually every human condition, according to many, many distributors and pundits. The problem with it was, if you stick a ORP probe into the Kangen water 9.5, you'll get an ORP reading that's consistent with an antioxidant. But once that water is in your stomach or in your bloodstream or in your body, how do you know it does anything? Remember, we do have a stomach, and this is one of the most frequent things that people say. Well, look, the stomach is acidic. You're going to drink this alkaline water, it'll be gone in no time. Stomach acid is like hydrochloric acid, 1/10 normal. It can dissolve a dime. And the answer, of course, is yes, it can. But the resting stomach is covered by a mucinous slime that covers the parietal cells, because if it didn't, we would digest our own stomach, and it would be a nightmare. And so the resting stomach is pH 3.5, 4, and has no real buffering capacity. Now, the stomach will respond with an acid output to certain stimuli, the most important of which is meat and digestive products. Meat in particular, that results in an outpouring of acid to help the digestive process down the road in the small bowel to convert this into amino acids and things that we can then use in the body. But the normal resting stomach, the moment you drink the pH 9.5 water, there's very little admixture. And because of the so-called microclustering, much more of this water gets absorbed in the proximal intestine as opposed further downstream. And it also gets absorbed in the antrum of the stomach. So we actually get a big bang from the water going directly into our bloodstream. And then the question arises, is there an antioxidant effect in the bloodstream? And that's what I set out to study first. And the reason I chose a tissue cell cellular tissues like red cells and neutrophils was because it's relatively inexpensive, and it would tell you whether there's an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, or other effect. And the most important thing to do is to have this tested by the standard scientific method in a approved laboratory. And in our case, it would be the National Institute of Health would have had to put its imprimatur on the testing site, on the outfit, and given it the green light saying that they are capable and that their results are approved, so that when you have a study done by an approved laboratory, it means something and it has authority. And so that's what we did. And what we found was in tissue culture.
Oh, just one sec. Let me just cut you there, Dr. Horst. I just want to go through deeper into the process. I love that you chose the National Institute of Health, because a lot of the clinical studies, a lot of the medical journal studies come from the National Institute of Health. Now, when you, how easy or how difficult is it to actually get a study through the National Institute of Health?
Well, it depends upon the type of study. You know, the study that I started with is very easy to do, and there's no contraindication to doing it because you're not involving or putting human beings at risk. You're dealing in a petri dish and inoculation and stuff. So there's a non-issue. So pretty much anybody can do that. But the key is that the laboratory has to have the appropriate predicate to be able to do that and to be considered authoritative. And that's what you have to do. And we chose a natural immune system laboratory in Oregon, and we've had a good relationship with them, and they're very bright and have a clean, good record. There's another reason to do these studies, and that has to do with the Federal Trade Commission and making claims. You are allowed to make claims that you can prove, but they come down on you very hard if you make claims and you in fact cannot prove them. And I think that in Malaysia, there was an incident where the government shut down Enagic for a period of time because of unsubstantiated claims that were not shown to be so by some scientific method.
That's right. Dr. Horst, I love that you've mentioned that, because it is a fact that there are a lot of supplements, a lot of medicinal herbs, and even medications that are out in the market that try and make claims despite the fact of not having any scientific backup.
Right.
And I've read a lot of other journals as well, where you have studies, for example, of generic ginger, generic turmeric, and then a claim is made that this supplement does that because of what they've seen in the medical journal, but not necessarily studying that specific supplements. So I love the fact that you went further and decided, no, it's not enough to just look at studies made on similar components of our machine or our water. You wanted to test the water that came out of our machine. And is it, and you know, I'm saying this based on what I've seen, but I also wanted to ask you, based on what you've seen around of competition of other products, not necessarily direct competition, but other products, supplements and herbs, was I right to say that a lot of them make claims, but not a lot of them actually have the backing, the scientific backup, the research behind their specific product?
That is, in fact, correct. And there are huge publications about our water, about ionized water in the literature, but they don't involve living human beings. They involve invertebrates, worms, tadpoles, all kinds of creatures that are studied. But, you know, again, no one really cares what Kangen water does to a tadpole. But they do care what they put in their bodies and how that reacts within the human being. And so we did that in tissue culture, and then were able to fund a real bona fide, internally controlled studies of 13 living human beings who were studied in an exercise protocol in relationship being their own controls when they took the Kangen water and did the exercise challenge, and then when they did not take Kangen water and did the exercise challenge. And we found profound changes in the Kangen water group. They did better. Their athletic performance was easy. It was more easily ameliorated. They got over the choke more quickly. Their muscle aches went away more quickly. Their red blood cell count rose greater than 15%, which is huge. And then at the last end of it, we also found that their inflammatory response was modulated profoundly. And in the final analysis of all the specimen of plasma and serum that we had collected, but not analyzed after the completion of the first study, when we did the analysis, we found certain cytokines, which are cellular messengers between cells, within a cell, that reacted to, when I say modulate inflammation, they produce cytokines that reduced inflammation, and they produce cytokines that blocked the elaboration of inflammatory cytokines. So you had a double whammy. And then the most dramatic thing came, that this water stimulates the production of an enzyme in the liver, which is the most powerful antioxidant the human body makes, and that's superoxide dismutase. And Kangen water more than 2.5 times increases that enzyme production in the liver when it's ingested. And that's huge. I mean, that is an antioxidant. The water has an antioxidant effect in itself in the cell, and then in addition, gooses the liver, so to speak, stimulates the liver to crank out this most powerful antioxidant. And to me, that's huge.
Sorry, can I just interrupt? So
yeah.
You were saying that Kangen water can increase superoxide dismutase, what, 2.5 times? Was that what you said?
2.5 to 3 times, yeah.
I'm sorry?
2.5 to 3 times the baseline production.
So if people drank normal water, tap water, what happens to this superoxide dismutase? Does it increase? Does it decrease? What happens to it?
Well, if you drink normal water, you do also elaborate superoxide dismutase, but the level is much lower. The concentration is much lower. And so when you are able to increase this concentration, this powerful anti-inflammatory agent, you're definitely getting a health benefit. What does the superoxide dismutase do? It obliterates free radicals. And free radicals are the basis of Crohn's disease, of virtually every disease chronic disease we know. Rheumatoid arthritis, ulcerative colitis, coronary artery disease starts out with an inflammatory response in the lining of the arteries to the heart, the coronaries, or in the peripheral vascular tree, causes arterial obstruction, stroke, inability to walk, and so on. And that, to me, is a benefit that you get by just drinking water, this water. And that's huge as far as I'm concerned. Probably also from a financial point of view. I mean, it's a bigger bang for your buck than a jar of antioxidants you can buy in the store, some of which are ridiculously priced.
That's right. I think the thing that the most important thing to note with this one, I mean, a lot of people will say, well, you know what, this supplement and that supplement can do the same. It can increase your antioxidant levels in the body. It can impact your health. The thing that people aren't seeing, and I hope that they see it here, is this is water. This is something that as soon as you've got that machine there, you have access to 24/7. You have access to whether or not you are in lockdown and unable to buy any supplements. Here in Indonesia, at the height of COVID, we ran out of vitamin C. In Australia, we have this platform where practitioners can order high dose supplements for their patients. We ran out of all those antioxidants because everyone was after it. If you have this machine in your counter or on your kitchen bench, you've got access to that high antioxidant producing water that increases superoxidase dismutase in your in your liver, in your body.
Right.
For virtually free after after your 5 years and you paid for it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So Dr. Filtzer, when you saw this research, was it something that you expected to see? Or was it something that you've always known about the water?
Well, I kind of expected it to see, because clearly, it is a subjective thing, but it made me as a person, change my habits dramatically. I was never a water drinker, ever. And so when I got introduced to this machine and I drank the water, I drank 1 glass of water and I bought a machine. And it was because there was a profound difference in a variety of things. The way it felt in my mouth, the way it was easy to swallow, the way it would just go right in your stomach without sloshing around, without making it feel awkward. And it tasted great. Now, I had the benefit of the lousy water in Arizona. We have terrible water here because it's so hard, and now we're facing the sins of our past, which was gold mining. We're getting arsenic deposited in our water now in large concentrations because the ore was extracted with arsenic over 100 years ago, and we're paying the price now. So we don't have very good water. You hook this baby up to your sink, water comes out, and the water tastes great. And so I started drinking water. I still drink my vino, but I really do drink water.
That's right.
I'm German-like, but
we have one of the things that I hear people all the time say, and this was especially when I was practicing in Australia. So, you're in a first world country, and everyone says, when you're in a first world country, you have the best water in the world, which is true to a certain extent, right? We have water, we're able to actually bathe in the water and so on and so forth. But it's when you actually look at what's in the water that you realize that, even if we're not in a mining town, there is a certain amount of arsenic in the water. There's a certain amount of E. coli in the water. There's a certain amount of atrazine in the water.
Sure.
And unless you understand what your water is made up of, you actually think, oh, it's the same water that, you see in the falls or in the rivers. But it can't be, because all those pull out fertilizers that's on the soil, gets into a catchment. The catchment has to be assessed for all these toxins, cleaned with chemicals, and so on and so forth. And what happens, doctor, if we just relied on perhaps filtering, just filtering our water. What is the difference in terms of our health, in terms of what we can do to the water for our health, compared to what Enagic, the Enagic machine can do to the water? I mean, when you just filter the water out and you feel like you've filtered as much of the toxins or the crap in it, does that water now become, effective to the body, to boosting immune system, to boosting our production of red blood cells, in boosting oxygen intake in our body?
Well, I think the key issue here is energy. We can do a lot to our water by passive filtration or ion exchange and stuff like that. We can alter the chemical composition of the water. We can remove certain toxins, some more easily than others. For example, fluoride is always implicated as being terrible for us. The people who are against fluoridation are they're rabidly enthusiastic about their point of view. But the fact is, there's not a single place on this planet where you do not have fluoride. And fluoride is a bivalent atom, which means it combines with negative and positive charges equally quickly. So here's the bottom line. In the Carolinas of the United States, the natural fluoride level in the drinking water is 4 times that recommended by the American Dental Association, naturally occurring. And there's not a damn thing you can really do with it. Yes, you can get the fluoride out through expensive special filters, but I doubt that the majority of the people have one of those. So there are certain things that Kangen water, because of the electrolysis, because energy is imparted to that water and causes the ionization, it gets rid of 50% of fluoride naturally, because that goes to the cathode and the anode equally. So you wind up, when you drink the ionized alkaline water, with half the fluoride that came from the source water. So those are some of the things that the electrolysis does. And then it leaves you with a vibrant water that has a pH, that has an ORP, and has energy, albeit the energy is evanescent. It eventually goes away as all charges try to get back to a neutral state. But that water, when it's energized, transmits that energy to your body and to your cells, unquestionably.
I love that you said that, Dr. Filtzer. Now, I'm just wondering which of those properties actually impacts the body's ability to fight stress. Because in the summary of the book, and I'm just going to share the book here, for those of you that haven't seen it, this is the book that's come out that Dr. Filtzer actually wrote his study results in. And it actually says that this water has shown to help the body fight stress better. So what is it that our body needs that Enagic is able to provide?
Well, particularly the 2 things that I think are the most profound ones are antioxidant, because as a free radical scavenger, it is extremely important, both a direct antioxidant and the SOD antioxidant effect, and then the anti-inflammatory. I mean, the anti-inflammatory is also quite profound. And I think we're missing the boat if we don't keep on studying that effect, because it's easy to do. And I think, look at how many millions of people have rheumatoid arthritis. I mean, it's millions in Western culture. And what do we do for that? Anti-inflammatory drugs, some of them terribly powerful and side effects. And here you have something that if you drink that every single day, it is very reasonable to expect a beneficial effect in your condition. Now, we're not saying it's going to cure it, but what we're saying is it's more better than not drinking it. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I've just got some questions here, Dr. Filtzer, and I'm just going to go through them. And then I'm going to read the ones that's come out on Facebook on the different platforms. So just remember that if you leave a message on my private Facebook, for those of you who are my friends and family, I can't display your questions, but I can read them. Okay, so that's what I'm doing right now. Can you just tell us, Dr. Filtzer, how the right kind of water can increase red blood cell production in the body and increase delivery of oxygen and the removal of carbon dioxide, while the wrong kind of water can't? So how can the right kind of water do that? How is our Enagic machine able to do that? Because that's come out in your study result as well. And why can't normal water do that?
Well, normal water is still water. It's buffered to a certain pH, and that pH is very difficult to alter. The water is stable. It does not have any electric charge to speak of. It does have some clustering. All water does, which occurs in nanoseconds constantly in water. But it doesn't have an ORP that is significantly powerful to affect your electric balance, to produce ions that then in fact translate into the ability to alter the body's pH. And we know that it does, and that those are studies that are actually quite old. And you can actually treat chronic renal failure with ionized alkaline water. And the same thing with the anti-inflammatory and the antioxidant effect. Now, when we are subjected to stress of different varieties, it can be emotional stress, it can be physical stress, it can be all kinds of stress. What happens is we get a response. It's commonly referred to as a fight or flight response. And that is associated with an increased heartbeat. It's associated with all kinds of physiologic changes, among which is increased stimulation of the bone marrow to crank out red cells. And that is in response to the fact that when you're under stress, you need to do more oxygenation. You need to be able to send your muscles, oxygen to function and what have you. And the body, by using this stress response, provides up to a limited degree increased red cells, reduced inflammatory cells, and so on, to help you address that stress. And that's a primeval response. It happens in all living things, particularly mammals.
Doctor, when you say that, as the good thing with having the Enagic machine in your counter, in your home, and drinking that water regularly is increasing red cell production and oxygen distribution in your body. That then means that no matter what it is that your body is struggling with, it will always be able to help, because oxygen is something every cell in our body needs. Is that correct?
Precisely. Yes.
Yeah. So I've got a question here. With COVID, with everyone talking about how the COVID virus impacts the lungs or targets the lungs, one of the questions I have here is, can we say that Kangen water is so powerful, has powerful antioxidant to strengthen lung health? Is that an accurate thing to say? It's a question on Facebook.
Okay, that it would strengthen, I'm sorry?
That it has the ability to strengthen the lungs because of its antioxidant properties.
Well, I think that it's sort of a maintenance issue. You know, when you drink that water, the maintenance of your tissues, your body fluid, all of that is made easier because it causes pH to be balanced. It causes to reduce inflammation and so on. So in an indirect way, it is helpful to keep your lungs and every other organ system in good shape.
That's right. And this is just a follow-up to what you were mentioning earlier about high fluoride levels in your area of the world. Is it correct and accurate to say that the Kangen machine can remove about 50% of fluoride in tap water?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Remember, it's a bivalent ion, so 50-50 goes to anode and cathode. So there you go. Yeah.
Okay. So, Dr. Filtzer, I'm going to have you drink your cup first of tea or coffee or whatever it is that you're drinking, or vino. I'm just going to go through
Not yet.
some of the comments that's been sent to us here. So, hello, Charlene from Singapore. She's just sent us a good morning. And we've got Ray Tahora Tokmo from the Philippines. Thanks for joining us. Lai, you've said you've got Crohn's disease, and you said that you're sending water to your cancer friend with stage 4 cancer. It's improving. Awesome. I mean, I think, like what Dr. Filtzer said, without us diagnosing and claiming that we can cure specific illnesses, I think the most important thing to take note of is no matter what your body's struggling with, having the right kind of water, having water that actually boosts your immune system, having water that can fight stress, means that it will always help no matter what you have or no matter what your body's struggling with. Did you want to add anything to that comment, Dr. Filtzer?
Well, let me say, the issue of cancer is always so emotionally charged and so on. And I get asked this all the time, how much should someone with cancer, or how much Kangen water should he drink? And my answer is always the same. He should drink as much as he possibly can, because it's good. It cannot hurt him. We don't have any hard data that there is a higher survival rate or that there's a longer survival rate, because the studies haven't been done. But it is pretty reasonable to assume that when you drink a water like Kangen water, that it will help you in a variety of different ways, not specific to the replicating cancer cells, but to the whole being. When you're on chemotherapy for cancer and you get sick to your stomach after they get done injecting you with whatever stuff they inject you with, and you vomit and you feel terrible, and then you take that same person and introduce them to Kangen water and have them drink the water before, in good amounts, before they get chemo, during and after, and they find that their nausea, their vomiting, their lousy feeling, their stressful thing is reduced and ameliorated. Well, that's a great effect. I mean, just, you got a bad hand to deal with, but on the other hand, this actually does help you deal with it. And so I'm all in favor of cancer patients drinking Kangen water. And it turns out now I have colleagues in very prestigious places in the United States, like Cleveland Clinic, for example, that give their patients Kangen water and encourage them to drink it for that very reason. Good hydration, because once you're chronically dehydrated, then you lose your sense of thirst, you lose your sense of well-being. And good hydration by itself, even if it weren't with Kangen water, good hydration is very important. And of course, again, the Kangen helps you without any question.
I love you said that, Doctor, because I do have a very dear person to me who's struggling with an issue similar to that. And I think one of the fears with Kangen is when you have the knowledge of the amount of antioxidants in the water, the anti-inflammatory effects of the water, people start thinking twice about taking it when they have doctors that say, oh, you can't take any supplements, or can't take any herbs, can't take any antioxidants. And I think that's where the problem comes in. I have even, as I said, people who are dear to me that say, well, maybe I shouldn't be drinking this water while I'm going through treatment because I've just been told to stay away from supplements and herbs. Can you just explain a bit more? I mean, if it were you that were trying to explain to someone asking you that question, they've been told to stay away from supplements and herbs, they've been told to stay away from antioxidants because it might impact their medications, specifically with cancer, chemotherapy.
Well, I tell you what, if you remind me, because I'm getting older than I thought I'd ever get. But make a long story short, I wrote a PowerPoint. I have a PowerPoint on that very issue, cancer and chemotherapy patients vis-a-vis Kangen water. And the entire antioxidant controversy has long been debunked as being bunk. It's not true. And I quote that there are at least 900 papers that assess the use of antioxidants on chemotherapy patients. And every one of those papers says it's perfectly safe to do. In fact, there are some antioxidants that have been studies in relationship to certain cancers, one being ovarian cancer, where the results are actually better when people take antioxidants and when they're not. And one of the most fascinating studies was that when it's related to compliance. The doctor will tell the patient, you must not drink any antioxidants, or you must not take any supplements. You must not do this, that, and the other thing, dietary-wise. And the researchers found, and this is an NIH study, that less than 12% of patients complied to their doctor's wishes. They live their life the way they want to, and just because they have cancer doesn't mean they're going to be making all these dramatic changes. So there was never any real compliance to that dictum in the first place. So the answer is chemo, antioxidant, go for it.
Thank you, doctor. I love that. I've got another one here. La, you've got a lot of questions here. And I'm just going to say that, again, for whatever the illnesses are that you're helping people with, it is a very good thing to drink this water. Let me just go to, he has one here that talks about the study. And he said, could you give us, here we go, can you send me the link to where that journal is? Am I right to say, doctor, that if they get access to this book, it might be an easier way to understand the study live? Or did you want to add anything to that, doctor?
Well, I think the study is pretty self-explanatory. I don't think it's too complicated. I tried to address the issue in a pretty straightforward way. Anyone who asks me if they would like to see a specific study, I can email them the entire study in its entirety for nothing. I may be happy to do that because, it's there. The whole details, the methods, the reagents used, everything is there. Each one of these studies has a 30-page report and so on. So we can certainly do that. And some people are buying these books from distributors, and be my guest. Whatever we've made from this, we don't touch it. We turn it right back into the research.
Awesome. Thank you, doctor. So, doctor, if I could request for that study so I can share it with our listeners who are requesting for it. I have another question here. If I can let me just process this question in my head. Sorry, I can't understand the question very well. If I could just request, when you ask me the question, pretend I don't know the question, just so that I understand what you're trying to say. I don't understand the context of some of the questions. Okay, so I have another one here that I wanted to go through. Okay. This is from Shirlene. And she says, I know this session is about water, but as an example to one of our earlier questions, you mentioned about turmeric, which we all know is a good supplement, but not all turmeric is the same. Like those who get in the market for our curry is, of course, different. What is Dr. Filtzer's take on Enagic Ukon turmeric supplement? Does he have any experience with it? And if so, can he share his experience and knowledge with us? Are you okay to talk about this, Dr. Filtzer, despite us talking about water right now?
Well, no, I can talk about the turmeric, specifically the Ukon, for a bit. I'm not a huge expert on it, but I did go to Okinawa, I've seen firsthand what they do there and their farming methods, which are all 100% natural. There's no chemical stuff involved. The plants are healthy. The different strains of turmeric are variable. Certain time of the year when they're harvested, they yield more of the curcumin than others, and so on. And the method of being packaged, freeze-dried, etc., and put into a very digestible capsules are top rate and first rate. And quite frankly, being older now and having certain aches and pains, I find it to be an excellent product to treat inflammation. Every now and then I get a flare up of my lower back, and then, I'm crippled, this and that. I take a handful of Ucan for several days. I don't take it every day, but for several days, and it helps me tremendously. And that's about all I can say about it. I'm not a great expert on it, but I also use it in curry.
That's right. That's right. Very different when you use it in curry, but I do agree. I've always said, use your food as your medicine and your medicine as your food. So that's right. Doctor, I'm just looking at your book here, and one of in the summary and conclusion on page 17, for those of you that have this book, you've mentioned here that when you've seen the results with exercise, it says here increased production of platelets with the consumption of Kangen water was also observed and suggests an improved readiness for stress-induced damage repair. So when you say stress-induced damage repair, is this applicable only for people that do long marathons and have, cramping pain or the inflammation in their system because of that? Or is it also with short exercises? If you can just elaborate a little bit more.
It's all of the above. Look, we are constantly stressing ourselves in a variety of ways. For example, did you know that part of the reason we develop plaques on our arteries is called shear stress? Shear stress is when there's a bifurcation or branching of an artery, and eddy currents are produced from the flow alone, the rheology of how blood flows through a living human being. And that shear stress needs to be managed because it damages the endothelium and the lining. And we do that 24/7 in our bodies, all the time, because your heart keeps going, and your blood vessels, they pump thousands of gallons of blood through your system every single day. So we live with stress. Some is easily managed, just we don't even notice it, and others takes a greater effort. And that's when you have people stressed, like with exercise, anxiety, whatever. Those stresses may be much bigger and may require and produce a larger response. That makes sense?
I love that. I love that you said that. Just going through all the other questions before I ask mine again. I think this is just a comment to what you've mentioned earlier. Okay, I'm gonna put this question through. There we go. Oops, it disappeared. Just give me a sec. There we go. I've learned diet, nutrition, and also aromatherapy. I have another client with Graves' disease, but there's a continuation to that. But not many doctors actually encourage patients to drink water. Is there a reason why water is something that's not normally recommended, Dr. Filtzer?
Well, I think that's a fundamental error that physicians are making. It's the idea that 70% of all people in the United States of America and Western Europe are chronically dehydrated. Mm-hmm. And the Europeans, particularly the Germans, they have done tremendous research on simple hydration. For example, in nursing homes in Germany, the patients have to have a specific gravity done on their urine 3 times a week to indicate their status of hydration. And there are penalties when these people, check out at say 1028 a concentration of their urine, which is profound dehydration, and you used to be, be that chronic nursing home smell from people who are dehydrated that have concentrated urine. And it's so important because it alters dramatically the fate of these people. They don't die as early. They have a better quality of life just by good hydration alone. So it's a complicated thing, but highly important. And why not do the best water while you're hydrating?
I love that. Rice got another question. How long must we drink to see effect? One of my friends who works in Indonesia drank the local water. Oh my gosh, Lai, you should tell your friend he should never have done that. Everyone in Indonesia is warned about the water here. We can't drink the water. We actually even teach people not to brush their teeth with the water. It really is very dirty.
Yes.
So I guess the question he's trying to ask is how long will it take drinking Kangen water to actually correct the damage that this bad
Well,
water.
I tell you, I wish I could give you a hard answer to that. I really don't know. I do know this, that the average person who starts drinking the water notices an effect virtually right away. And they particularly would say, Dave Carpenter, a friend of mine, a really good naturopath, he's one of my dearest friends, always used to start out when he talked about the water. They said, I'll tell you what, you want to talk about the water to me, which I've been dealing with and drinking with for 10 years. Get a machine, borrow a machine, drink 3 liters of water a day for a month, and then sit down with me, and then I'll talk to you. Because then you'll have something to say to me, and you'll have something to say. Because if you say to me that you feel better and so on, I would expect that. And if you tell me otherwise, not so sure. See, I'm saying the proof is in the drinking, and I think it's generally a fairly rapid effect that's positive.
That's right. I think if I can just add to that as well, when I was treating my Crohn's, one of the things that the naturopaths that I was seeing previously, and the doctors even confirmed this, is it that it takes 6 weeks for your gut to fully change itself, fully correct itself. So I would say at least 6 weeks, keep drinking Enagic Kangen water or clean water and avoid dirty water. Now, when in places like ours, Dr. Filtzer, where the water is really bad, one of the things that I've spoken to a lot of my friends about is the fact that if you don't want to drink the water because you know how horrible it is, why would you bathe in the water? Our skin still absorbs the water. What would you say about the effect on the body by water that goes through the pores of our skin? Does it also, am I correct to assume that it also creates a massive imbalance in our system?
Yeah, I think you are. Particularly chlorine is a real bad culprit. It gets absorbed through the skin, and it causes premature aging of skin. It's not a good thing. And depending upon where you live, the amount of chlorine in the water can be very heavy. So there is truth in saying that you ought to bathe in as clean water as you can possibly do. That's why I use the thing, what do you call it, the Anespa thing in my shower. And that's the one thing my wife absolutely tells me she likes about Kangen water is the Anespa. That she likes that better than drinking. Makes a difference.
Dr. Filtzer, we're almost hitting the hour, and I don't want to put you on the spot. We've got at least 3 more questions. Are you okay to go through those questions, or should I just call it a
I would never say no. Please go ahead. Go for it.
Go for it. Okay, cool. I've got a question from Tamara here. And she says, how does the water help to correct or help allergies, asthma, and skin issues?
I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to say it with a qualification. I have no hardcore data other than anecdotal data. What people have told me and what people have experienced. And it makes sense that clearly, if we hydrate ourselves adequately and satisfactorily, many of these things like allergies and skin issues do improve. And I have certainly have a number of colleagues that are dermatologists who use the water on the skin. You can use beauty water on the skin, like an astringent, for example. And in my practice of wound care the last 10 years, I used gallons of 2.5 pH water to treat the most disgusting, dirty, infected wounds very effectively. I think, therefore, my conclusion is that it does indeed help allergies, asthma, and other skin issues, because they are all interrelated. There are immune compromised system diseases.
Awesome. Thank you, doctor. I think another thing, Tamara, in naturopathy, in the study of naturopathy, and I think your homeopaths will say the same thing, that a lot of the issues with the skin is like a reflection of what your insides are. That's how we actually try and explain it. So the cleaner your system is, the cleaner your bowel is, the cleaner your skin becomes. So if we're healing our bowel, or I don't like to use the word healing, if we're actually helping our bowel rebuild itself and rejuvenate itself, then we're doing exactly the same thing to our skin. I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Okay. There's another one here. When I had Crohn's, loose stool, I drank 3 days without medicine. So I'm assuming I drank water for 3 days without medicine. I see better stools, smooth as banana, that changed my life. If I can first, before I pass this on to Dr. Filtzer, just say, one of the things that I'm really careful of is telling people not to take their medications. There's a reason why medications are given by your doctor. I personally, when I was recommended to take steroids, I spoke to my doctor when I decided not to do it. I actually asked for a time to just trial other things first. And I managed my Crohn's with him, despite me not going on steroids. And I would strongly suggest for any of you that are watching right now, if you've got any issues, any illnesses, where you've got medications, the best way to actually manage it and rebuild your system with it is to work with your doctor. Not all of them are difficult doctors. And if you show that you will be in control and that you will, take responsibility and work with them,
right,
they usually are willing to work with you. And as I said, my doctor gave me 6 months to trial something else, and that was how I got off without taking my steroids. But I'm happy that you had better stools without the medication. Dr. Filtzer, have you got a comment on this?
Well, first of all, you do know that Crohn's is a disease that has spontaneous remissions with no treatment whatsoever. I mean, that's well known fact. I also think that steroids are the reason that we've made so much progress in treating the immune disorders of the gut, like Remicade and all these other things that are immune modulators and not steroids, because the use of prolonged steroids has been so devastating. I mean, people lose their bone mass, people, get to look funny, they have moon face, they have all kinds of abnormalities, the skin gets thin. So the steroids might have aborted a bad flare-up, but to use them as a long haul has never been a good thing. And so I'm glad that that era is pretty much over. I don't think people use steroids as a mainline defense against Crohn's or UC anymore.
Doctor, in several countries, they still do. They still do. It's still the first thing that comes out of a lot of doctors' mouths. So, and I know that for a fact because I've helped a lot of people with steroids. But I'm glad that that's right, that you've said that. And as I said, working with your doctor is still the most of utmost important. If you have a doctor that truly cares, he will listen and he will work with you.
Oh, absolutely.
I've got a question here that I wouldn't know the answer to. Can people with gastric
acrohydria? Absolutely. Absolutely, they can drink Kangen water. As a matter of fact, people with acrohydria used to drink dilute stomach acid. I mean, they used to drink hydrochloric acid like pH 2 to help their digestion, like before a meal, they'd drink some of that. Because as you know, we need acid to help with our protein and digestion. And so certainly they can drink Kangen water, absolutely.
So
and sometimes actually, and this is known, it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. If they drink the water regularly, the Kangen water, their acrohydria improves in some cases.
And doctor, you're talking about just our 9.5, 8, and 8.5, right?
Right.
We're not talking about drinking the 2.5 pH water in this situation.
No. I don't think you could hurt yourself very much by having a little of it, but that's not the issue. The company makes it clear this is not a drinking water, that pH 2.5, nor is the 11.5, but people still sneak it in. We don't want to get into any controversy because clearly when you drink 2.5 water, that's powerful acid, and that can cause cellular damage in large doses.
So I like that you've said that continuous use and drinking continuously our Kangen 8.5, 9, and 9.5 actually helps rebalance the system so that it gets rid of issues like this one without the extra or the need for our 2.5 pH, because that's what the water is designed for, right? It's designed to actually teach our body how to function normally. It's designed to equip our system with the tools it needs to rebuild itself.
Well, I think that's a good way to say it. Yeah, I mean, obviously, what you're doing is by balancing the energy production in your cell, and by improving that, and that's we haven't talked about that today, but we in one study showed that the mitochondrial engine of the cell is upregulated when Kangen water is ingested. So if you have a substrate like glucose, which is what we need in the cell, the Kangen water encourages the use and cranks up the energy metabolism and the output of ATP by the mitochondria. And again, that's a powerful benefit.
I love that. Doctor, I've got another question here, and I'm reading it off my phone again because it's gone to my personal page. For skin cancer, will bathing 2.5 and 11.5 water help apart from just drinking Kangen water?
No. To that question, I mean, you can do 2.5, you can do 11.5, but that's not treating a cancer. You can put that on, that's not going to treat the cancer. Skin cancers are treated by excision. You remove them. Some are treated with radiation. Some respond very well to radiation. But balancing the internal milieu of your body makes total sense whether you got a skin cancer or not, because it just does, see. But there is no therapy for skin cancers that rightly would involve the water. Now, if you've had an excision and you've got a nasty wound from it, you've got an infection, yeah, that'll be helpful in healing that wound, but not treat the cancer. I don't want to even get into that possibility, because then people will put it on and say, gee, why didn't it get better? Well, it's not designed for that.
Awesome. I love that. Doctor, you've mentioned that you have used the 2.5 in wound healing in your practice previously. Now, sometimes when you have an incision with surgery, some people develop keloid. Is there is 2.5 or 11.5 something that you've had experience with in terms of keloid?
I have limited experience with keloids, although I've had some, and some of my own patients have developed keloids. Remember, it's a genetic predisposition that occurs in certain people more so than others, and there's some hereditary factor to it. The treatment of keloids is difficult, and it does involve some surgery. What we do is you do an intrakeloidal excision. It doesn't take away the whole keloid, but it makes it much smaller and manageable, and also injection of powerful steroids into the keloid works, but it's not popular because it hurts like hell. And so people, they have that once and then they learn to like their keloid.
Awesome. I'd just like to say thank you to everyone that's watched. Judy, Tina, thanks, Tina, I love you. Thanks, Indri. Thanks, Tamara. The other names that have popped up earlier, I'll be able to see once I go properly into all the other social media platforms. Dr. Filtzer, it's just been an amazing chat with you, and it's a great way to actually have my cup of coffee in the morning. Yeah. And before we end, I just wanted you to give us one last message, one last statement that you'd like everyone to remember. If there was anything in this whole discussion, what is the most important take you would like other people to actually remember?
Well, I think I would like for them to remember that we are on a quest, we're on a road to showing this product, this Kangen water 9.5, this ionized alkaline water, for what it truly is and what its benefits truly are. And we're showing that by doing studies appropriate to a structure function effect. Now, we've just begun, and I think there are so many other things that could be done. For example, we're talking about stem cells and the stem cell response and longevity, for example, telomere lengthening, all of those things. I firmly believe that we should address that over time, and I believe that any company that continues to do R&D on its products as a way of life will do better in the long run than not. Look at Mercedes-Benz. In 1936, they built a 4-cylinder diesel engine that in 2021 is still the world's largest automotive engine produced and the best. Why? Every year they worked on it and improved it. And every year, Enagic and companies like it ought to showcase their product by showing another health benefit that is provable and repeatable. And that's my message.
Thank you, Doctor. I love that. And for everyone that's watching here, Lai, Audrey, Rain, Michael, I missed out some names, Charlene, thank you so much. Thank you for watching us. We're very happy to be able to have sent you, given you this cuppa this morning. Hope you've enjoyed it with your cup of coffee as well. And Dr. Filtzer, thank you so much. I mean, your book, your videos, your research has actually helped me help others understand the water better. And I think what I also, if I could just reiterate some of the things that we've said today, it's we know now for a fact with Dr. Filtzer's study how amazing this water is. We now know that we actually have access to this water. Now that we know that, let's not try and, do it a different way. Why do you want to try and experiment? We know what works. Let's use what works. Let's help our body rebuild itself. Let's try and live optimally. In the Anti-Aging Medicine Society, they've said that the person that's going to be living up to 125, 150 is alive now. Let's be that person if we can. Why not?
Sure.
And if that means drinking the right kind of water to optimize our health, exercising, moving right, eating right, then let's do it. There's no reason anymore to pretend that we don't have the information in front of us through the tips of our fingers, through Google, through checking the National Institute of Health. And with the information that Dr. Filtzer will send me, for any of you that want to have access to that study, please send me a message. For those of you that want the book, I will also share with you where to get that book. The book's available online. There are leaders in Singapore like Judy Fleming, who's got the books available with her. Dr. Filtzer, what you've done is just amazing. What you've proven is, still blows my mind. And thank you for continuously learning more about this water to help more people. Thank you for your time today.
You're very, very welcome, and I hope you have a good day. Be well, all of you.
Thank you, Doctor. And everyone, thanks for joining me. Charlene, you are most welcome. You are most welcome. And Judy, thank you as well. Thank you for your support. You and Charlene helped me get this interview happening. And again, remember, there's no wrong or right question. If you have a question about the water, what it can do for you, please continue asking. We will answer the questions as we see them. I love the question on Crohn's and everything that you've done, Lai. I have done the same thing. Again, as I said, I did work with my doctor, and I would still recommend for others to do that. It's very difficult to just try and work on your own, implement things on your own without the support of a professional. So connect with a professional, whether it's an alternative medicine practitioner or a medical doctor. Our body is very smart. It can rebuild itself. It just needs the tools. And one of the most important tools you can give your body is the right kind of water. You're more than 75% water. Every year or every few years, that number keeps going down. And it's mostly because as we age, we dehydrate. So if good health, optimal health means being hydrated with the most antioxidant-rich water, with the most energized water, then so be it. Let's do it, and let's do it together. Again, ask your questions. I will continue answering them. I will send you the study. But you know what? This book is truly amazing. I've been going through the book cover to cover for quite a while now. All the knowledge that Dr. Filtzer shares with us is in this book. And know that every time you get the book from the true distributors, the right distributors like Judy Fleming, you are helping Dr. Filtzer, Fred Brown, who helps him out as well, and the people in their group that are trying to learn more and educate people about the water. Because every amount of money that we put into this book actually helps to them continuously doing the research on the water and getting deeper into it. Remember, there's still a lot that we have seen the water do for others, but we don't really have the scientific backing. It would be great to have a backing on all of that. So let's help Dr. Filtzer continue his research. Patricia, thanks for joining us. Thank you for watching. And thank you again, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that today. Have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed your cuppa. I drank all of mine. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. Bye-bye.